joins a nudist camp, and he's walking around there with his meat and two veg swinging in the breeze, and he decides to go into the camp bar because to make friends and that. So anyway, he walks in there, and behind the bar is this absolutely stunning woman. She's gorgeous, but she's a bit giggly and a bit thick. Anyway, he goes up to the bar, and she's there, and there's a barman there, and he said, I'll have a pint of Guinness, please. And the barman says, okay. So he edges past the barmaid, he licks her tit. He pulls a pint of Guinness and, puts it on the bar. And as he walks past the barmaid again, he gives her another, licks her tit again. The fella thinks, well, this is a bit weird. And every time he passes the barmaid, he licks her tit, you see. So anyway, when the barman disappears for a while down the cellar, he says to the barmaid, he says, why does the barman keep licking your tit? And she said, oh, well, he's supposed to. He's perfectly okay. He said, why? Well, he told me he can do it because he's got a liquor licence. That's a terrible joke, isn't it? Very cleaned up, I hasten to add. It was a filthy joke that I cleaned up. It's all the politically correct people go, Anyway, tonight we've got Ben, who's got his microphone silenced.
Sorry, we're back on. Sorry.
Oh, we're on. Yes.
I didn't realise I was laughing at the joke. I remember that one.
You're the only one that is.
I will remember it when I'm drunk enough. When I'm with people who are drunk enough, I'll tell it. And
Chris has got very upset with the joke. He's trying to calm his dog down. He's got upset by the politically incorrect joke there, you see. So there we go.
Anyway, to trigger a dog.
Was it Bartley, his dog, isn't it? I think he's very sensitive to dirty jokes, his dog.
Oh.
So anyway, it's just us two for a little while until Chris connects back. Tonight we're going to have an assortment of subjects, and they're them, they're there. What could that mean? They're there. Was it they're them, they're there?
It's a series of homophones, but if you read it, you'll see it's sort of like, of course, there's different ways of writing these things, and it could mean different words, couldn't it?
Precisely. Well, we're going to talk about later on tonight the very embarrassing situation with tomatoes, and that is with Chris. Do we plant our seeds out now or wait a little bit later?
Do you know what, mate?
Yeah,
I'll tell you a story about that. Remind me when you hit me up on that. I learned something today from one of my customers. So
righto. So please remind me if I forget. So it's the embarrassing tomato question that we've got. And Ben, any UFOs? Because I said to bloke who knocked on my door today, I said UFO. And he looked,
There's a lot. Yeah. There is
Really?
some news. There is some news about the UFO situation. It's not good news, unfortunately, but it could have positive effects. So, I can talk about the UFO situation if you like. Yeah.
Spicy,
well, do you think that it's hyped up by government deliberately? A bit like what they do. They take something and they twist it, and then they push it further than it should do. And it's like a magic act. They hide something in plain view and use misdirection to sort of.
Can I answer that question when you've done your rant, Chris, and maybe talk about tomato seeds as well? Because that's a big subject. Takes a lot of explanation, but I will answer you. Remind me to bring it up again because I will answer you that. Yeah.
Right. Well, actually, I'm going to have a big rant about local councils because I've got quite a bit. I've been doing quite a bit of research about my local council, and I'm going to, as I find out more, put up information on my Telegram channel, not Facebook, obviously. So there's a big plug. Why not join my Telegram channel? It's good fun. It's full of open-minded people, weirdos like myself. And you're not actually banned for saying naughty things on Telegram, which is much better than Facebook.
Not yet.
Not yet, no, because No, the senior bloke at Telegram was seen at the World Economic Forum, so
Oh,
let's say more.
dear.
But
Oh, dear.
what's happening is, I don't know if you've seen the votes recently, but apparently there's a load of MPs that are resigning, or well, not resigning, but leaving Parliament. A very large number of them. And he interviewed a chappie who's been looking into limited companies that are registered in Companies House, and there's a lot of fakery and there's a lot of fiddling going on. I won't sort of say more than that. I'm hoping to get the chap who was speaking about it on the show. Hoping to. I don't know. All I can do is ask, and they'll either say tell me to sod off or not. But I think would be a very interesting show, and he is YouTube friendly, so he doesn't mention anything that would get me banned. So I won't say too much. But this fella has been researching into limited companies, and I've actually found that my local council has 2 limited companies, and the chief executive it runs 3. I say run, one of them is not actually trading, but the other 2 are. And it's strange that at my local council, have a look at names in your local council, because a civil servant is an officer, and apparently if they're in the civil service, there'll be an executive officer. But at my local council, it's the chief executive. He's not an executive. He's not an officer, which means he's not a civil servant. And he's got his name down to 2 other limited companies, Badger VC Investments and BEST. So this is quite interesting. I've been digging into it, and it turns out that the head honcho in my local council has come from the house building area as well. And I've been looking a lot into it, and I think that the local council is very economical with the truth. They only tell you what you need to know, but they don't tell you any more. And I think if people knew more, and all I ask people to do is council, I won't call it tax, it's basically a fraud, add up. I mean, the population where I live, the whole sort of borough is, I think it's 43,000 people. Say 40,000 people, and the average person pays about £2,000 to £3,000 council tax a year. Times that by 43 or 40,000, that's a lot of money. And then work out how much time is spent emptying your bins, what you're actually paying for. It's a rip-off. Big.
It's shocking, mate. We just had ours through. It's that's 2,180 something. It's just sitting on the table behind me. But yeah, it's ridiculous. Literally for having our bins empty.
And they drop all the rubbish all over the place, even though they're wheelie bins.
Yeah, to be fair, our binmen are all right, mate. They're not too bad.
In a country, this is suburbs, and what gets me is that people have got loads and loads of boxes of cardboard, tin cans. It's the same way you are, where you have to separate everything.
We have to do the recycling thing.
And what happens is when they're emptying the cardboard and the tin cans in, the bloody stuff blows up the road and they don't bother picking it up.
Right.
So when you come around the corner, it's all tin cans rolling around. But the thing is
they tell you not to put it in bags, don't they? They say, don't put it in bags, just put it loose into the bin.
Yeah.
And the wind blows, it blows all over the place. But
I'm pretty sure, Chris, that half of it goes into containers and gets shipped off to Africa anyway. I don't believe that it all gets reused, recycled. I think they get a certain amount of pleasure from just knowing that we have to wash it all out and clean it, and then and sort it, and then they come and collect it, put it in a shipping container, and send it to Ghana to be buried or something. So
I agree with you. And a bloke let the cat out of the bag. I spoke to a senior bloke in the council, not that senior, and he said the stuff what we put in the black bins is the stuff that they say is household stuff that you can't recycle, or so called. He said that goes down to a place where they burn it up and it's used for power generation.
Yeah, they wanted to do that, Chris. They tried to build one of them in Kings Lynn, and the council, it was very corrupt. The council kind of signed a build agreement with this company, Corey Wheelbarrow or something, and they were going to build an incinerator in Lynn. And I'll tell you what, as a result of local action, people getting really upset about it and campaigning and rallying and all that, it didn't get built. They're building it in Wisbech now, which is like 15 miles up the road. So.
Yeah.
But they're not building it in Lynn.
That's right. There's one not that far from us. Well, it's a fair distance from us. But the thing is that I personally think that what they're doing is they're sending a lot of this stuff out to these so-called recycling places, and they're earning money from it. And we are the silly sods that are separating it all out for them because they don't have to pay money to separate it all out. They're doing their work for them. But you add up how long it takes. Now, there's 55 houses where I live. Okay, this little area. Takes, I would say, there's what, two or three blokes, one bloke driving, two blokes emptying the bins, three blokes, and it takes they're around in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, let's say an hour. Three blokes, and every 2 weeks they come. We get our rubbish emptied every 2 weeks, not every week. Is it the same as where you are, every 2 weeks?
Yeah.
We get a returner. We get recycling 1 week and then black bin the next week, and then
same here.
So,
same. You've got to remember which bin to put out, otherwise they just don't take it.
They print
we have to pay extra for the green
handy little chart round here, Ben, which I sellotape to the side of the fridge every year just so I don't forget.
Yeah.
So
but we have to pay extra for the green bin, so I don't pay.
Is that a garden bin?
The garden bin, you have to pay extra for it.
Yeah, brown it is here, but yeah, we pay about 60 something quid a year for ours.
Yeah, I don't.
It's just you make you think, because like you say, everything is becoming more expensive. Nothing works as well as it used to, as Brian Gerrish said. Nothing works anymore. Everything is inefficient. Everything's like bureaucratic. Everything requires more and more administration. So you get bigger and bigger offices with more and more people in them to just organize everything, who do nothing except in an office organizing everything. And all the cost is handed to the end user. That is the local people who find the bills going up. As you said to Chris, Chris the gardener, it's just everything's getting more expensive. Bills, I mean, all of us, everyone I know has found their energy bills going up, their local council tax going up, everything's going up, which means, I mean, when I was living in, I don't claim housing benefit or anything like that now, but I did claim it when I lived in a house. I lived in a house with my daughter and my ex-partner, and I had to claim. I applied for benefits on council tax and housing, and I was granted those. But if I didn't have those, I wouldn't have been able to afford to live there. And this makes people dependent on the state, because nearly everyone I know is claiming some kind of benefit for these bills. Almost everyone I know. Because like you get £2,000, a lot of people can't even afford it, and they pay, and that makes them dependent on the state, whether it's local government or national government. It's still the state, so they become in a sense enslaved to it, because they say, "Well, we're helping you with these bills." See what I mean? It's a very precarious situation.
Oh, I agree. And
it's
also
a dangerous place to be, isn't it? Relying on the state. It's something that I strive to have as little to do with as possible. I mean, that to me is the answer. Is just to disengage with as much of it as you can and take back responsibility for yourself. And I know it's tricky. I know it's hard, but there's always things you can do. And I always find one thing generally leads to another. So you do one thing, and then that opens up maybe two more doors for you, and you find that there's other things you can do. And that is the answer in my book, is just and start looking out, start being kinder to each other, start looking out for people, start doing more to help others, and sharing the love. If you are growing your own food, share it with the people around you, and try and build a community with the people around you. I'm lucky. I live in a village where people speak to you. I know. I mean, there's probably 35 houses down my street. I would know half of the people by name to speak to, and most of the others to nod to say hello. And people in the village that we just bumped into walking the dogs and they live the other side of the village, but we know them by name. It's about trying to build a community with the people around you, whoever they are. I think is a big key to any kind of success in the future. I think the more you engage with the state, the more you put yourself online and rely on things like that, I think you're doomed. I really do, because one day they're going to take the toys away, especially from people like us, Ben.
Yeah, this is why it's actually true. We talked about this last time you were here. It's important to be positive and build connections with people around you, and not be an island with the. I think George Orwell said this. You know, the only relationship will be that between the individual and the state. There's no love except love of Big Brother, and that's what they want. They don't want us. That they're trying to break up couples so that you don't have a partner. They're trying to drive wedges between friends. They're trying to drive children from parents and parents from children, because they want to be the state wants to be the only person in your life. And then when they say, well, yes, we're paying you to help you with these bills, and the bills keep going up, but well, we'll help you out, but that makes you never forget that we are the ones helping you out, and therefore you owe us your loyalty. And so that's, I mean, I think if you're in a situation, as some people are, as I've been, where you're essentially forced into that position, then just be positive about it. Just think of yourself. Just imagine yourself using them. Just think of yourself as exploiting them. That's the best thing to do. And then, like, reach out to your neighbours. Try and make yourself as prosperous as possible within your community. And I mean, I don't live in a little village. I live in Oxford. And I know the name of the guy who lives above me. I don't know anyone else in my street. I live in a flat with two other guys, and very few people I know live in their own place now. They share, because it's the only thing that's affordable. But big cities like London and Birmingham and Manchester, like they're far worse. I mean, they are.
Oh, mate, I think they're going to be the hardest places for anyone who doesn't want to go along with it. If you're in a city, you're going to struggle, because it's going to be made a lot harder for you before. I mean, this is the thing. Villages are 20, 30 years behind towns, mate. They really are. It's a completely different pace of life. I'm glad I grew up in villages and then moved into the town when I was 19 and lived in town most of my adult life. And I've really pleased to be back in a village, and for my wife, it's her first experience of it, so she absolutely loves it. It is very different, and like I say, it's going to be easier living it, but the thing is, eventually they'll come for all of us if we let them.
Well, they're trying to rush the agenda. This is why they're driving HS2 through so many of these little villages. These lovely little villages have been there since the Middle Ages. They're being ploughed under horrible piles of ballast and steel and electric wires for this ridiculous white elephant of a trade. It'll get you to your cubicle, your slave labor cubicle, 20 minutes faster than the existing train. This is why they're also putting these refugee centers in little villages and things like that. They want to attack. It was Mahatma Gandhi actually said the village is the keep of the fortress. He would understand what you were saying, Chris. In India, he said that the village is the center of all culture and things like that. I think it's the same in this country. And this is what they do. This is why they're attacking villages.
Interesting what you say there. Sorry, Chris. Just interesting what Ben says about the agendas pacing up. Are you both aware of the line? The construction project in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So you're both aware of it.
Yes. I hate it.
I hate it. It's not good, but they have started building it. They've started building it. Construction has begun. I've seen footage. I mean, well, all right. It looks.
I don't think they were serious about it, because it looks.
Oh, mate, they're very serious about it.
Because it looks like something from a science fiction story, but
absolutely. But it's the tech is there, and the desire is there, and I think that is something that we all need to keep a close eye on, because that is our dystopian future if we let them do it. And that, I think this is going to be a test to see how many people voluntarily will, and I think a lot will. But yeah, that has started, mate. Construction on that has begun.
Oh, God.
And they're already signing people up to pre-book to live in it. And it's
some people want to live in there. God.
Oh, mate, it's 150 kilometers long when it's finished, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I mean, they sent me an advert on Twitter. I mean, I saw ads for it everywhere. It's called Meon, which I believe is Arabic for line,
Right.
and it's been driven through some of those inhospitable and places, formerly uninhabited country, basically in Saudi Arabia. And I just put a reply to the comments, and I wasn't the only one putting these kinds of comments on there. The comment I said, "You will live in the line, and you will be happy." And other people were putting on similar comments. So I think people were very aware of this.
Yeah. Oh, but mate, you say, I know people say, oh, people are waking up, you know, I'm seeing it more all the time. It's not happening fast enough, in my opinion. You know, there's still, it's waking up is one thing. But in my experience, if I don't really like the phrase waking up, but seeing the world differently, since I saw the world differently, for the first 4 or 5 years, I just sat on my ass watching videos online, just trying to learn as much as I could about what was really going on. But there wasn't any real action in terms of my behaviour. It's only been in the last 3 or 4 years where I've really started to try to do things to change myself and make my situation better, and you know, but I think that's the way it is. A lot of people that, if you want to call it waking up, I think the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go down rabbit holes left, right, and centre. But there's nothing's going to change. It's not happening fast enough for me.
You have to do things. I mean, this is what I mean. I think I might have talked about it on the previous show how I was very much in the first decade of me learning about this sort of thing. Seriously, I was a consumer like yourself of material, books, magazines, videos. In the early, I got on the forums in the early internet, but it was in 2006 when that was the time when my daughter came home from school and said the school wanted to fingerprint her. That was when, oh my God, it's real. It's real, and it's in my life, and it's affecting my nearest and dearest. That's what that galvanized me. It radicalized me. I became active after that. That's when I set up Panwo. I suddenly realized it wasn't abstract anymore.
No. I think there's a way of attacking, though. When I say attacking, I don't mean that in an aggressive sense. Because what annoys me, if you try and say something in the local council, you're only given 3 minutes or 2 minutes or some ridiculous time. Well, my attitude is we pay them. We should say jump and they should ask us how high, because we pay their wages. And I think we need an attitude change that says we will speak as long as we need to speak. If you want to play silly games, it's entirely up to you, but we will speak as long as we, wish to speak. And have someone like Windsor Davis, who, when this Madam Chairman says, I'm afraid we've had all 3 minutes, he goes along, marches up to her, stands to attend and says, shut up.
He was in his Ain't Half Hot Mum, wasn't he?
That's right, yeah.
He was so good in that, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. And I think that's the attitude change we need. And also, we don't, we're polite, we're very, very polite to the council, just keep asking them questions, but as individuals, not as groups, because they can infiltrate groups, but they can't infiltrate individuals. So if they get rid of you, there's somebody else that comes along. They get that rid of somebody else comes along. And it just all the time, they've got individuals coming at them. It's not a very nice thought for them. But if they've got a group coming at them, all they can do is just focus in on that group and infiltrate and destroy it. And of course,
I agree with that, Chris. Can I respectfully disagree with you, though? I don't. I think that the way to deal with them is to not engage with them, to not even acknowledge them. If you could really form local community spirit, and you could, get people down your street on side, and as a collective, not as a group, but as the whole street, you would just then write them a letter and just say, we are not engaging with your nonsense, whatever you want to call it anymore. From now on, this street is not, we don't want any services or anything like that, and we're not paying. What are they going to do if a whole street or 90% of a street of 50 houses say no, and then somehow that gets a bit of coverage in some media somewhere and other people start doing it? I've got to disagree with you, mate. I don't like the idea of, you see, I don't have any contact with a local MP. I don't write him emails or letters or anything. I don't want nothing to do with the bugger. As far as I'm concerned, mate, if we just all ignored them, they might go away. Because if they're not getting any attention or energy, mate, that's my take. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying
that's
I'm
a good
right,
point.
mate.
But from a village point of view, where you are, yes, would work. I mean, where I live in a cul-de-sac of 11 properties. I only speak to about 6 or 7 people in properties. The rest. So that, and it was surrounded by fields and countryside at one point. They've built a bloody great estate next to it now. But the thing is that I think that you think about it. We whittle it down. We're paying about £40 to £50 a week for the council services. That's a bloody lot of money. Now you times that by that. Well, you said 30 properties. You times that by 30 properties, and someone worked it out that for an average size town, if everybody paid between £1 and £2 a week, you could employ a civil servant to do the administration, who would be totally accountable, someone local, who could then hire people to empty your bins once a week, not once every 2 weeks, to have a security or policeman on the beat who knows all the people, walks around. Then for education, home education, people would have to employ tutors to come in, or people would have a hall where they take their children along to learn. And if that teacher teaches them about cross-dressing and things like that, they're out on their arse. As simple as that, you know. People wouldn't stand it. And it'll be, people would then become more responsible. You'd have to hire a sweeper. Now you think, where you are, how long, 30 properties, how long would it take to sweep the road? An hour? 2 hours?
Depends how you do it, mate. If you got a machine, it wouldn't take long at all. If you do it with a brush, it'd probably take you all day.
Yeah, but you think about it, they could get a pensioner or somebody like that, pay them, they'd like standing talking to people.
You've done much sweeping, Mr. Von Essex.
Yes. Well, I planted 3 trees. I know it is. I planted 3 trees.
Sorry?
Now, have you planted 3 sort of fair-sized trees on your own? I was cream crackered afterwards because they're waterlogged in their buckets, and I had to cut the buckets out of them. They were so heavy I couldn't lift them, so I had to roll them into the trench that I dug, and they went in sideways, so I had to use levers to lever them.
Nice. Welcome to my world.
Yes. I said, oh dear, they won't go in. Slap my thigh. It didn't fully go down, and it's on the piss. And words like that. Oh, wow. And I put bone meal down. That's all right for trees, isn't it, Chris?
Bone meal?
Bone meal, yeah.
I don't know. It's a new one to me, man.
I promoted my neighbour's cat. I thought that's the best thing to do, you know. Yeah. I'm joking.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm joking.
You want to be careful. You'll get a strike talking about.
Yes, I might do. Yes, that's right. Yes. Mind you,
any reason.
I was actually thinking, what about an MP? I mean, if you're planting trees, you could bury an MP underneath the tree and give a nice sustenance, you know. They'd be useful, wouldn't
they?
They're
full of shit, aren't they? So they'd be good.
Yeah. 101 Uses for a John Major. Do you remember that book? Oh, it's a classic. And it says bottle bag manager, and you see him inside his bottle bag with a sort of ledger. You know? Another one was a queue. Was it a queue for a billiard table? You see there with 2 fingers, and someone's playing.
I must have missed it, mate.
It's still probably around. If you look up Amazon, 101 uses for a John Major.
All
of them more useful than he was in his actual position, like they all are. Yeah,
just bits, aren't they, mate? They're not making any decisions. They're literally like the media, if you like, aren't they?
They're the public relations.
Yeah, exactly. They're just there to pass on the message, mate. They don't have any say. Not one of them, mate. They don't have any say whatsoever. They are literally there just to pass on the message. And give you the illusion of some kind of control or choice.
We saw that, didn't we? I mean,
that's right, carry on, Ben.
I was going to say, like, the mask is slipping more and more, which is good because, I mean, as we said when we were last here, I believe that they essentially the state plays no role. It plays no real role in society, especially not in its inflated and overblown and overfunded and parasitic form that it is. So they essentially invent a fake role for themselves in our lives. And every so often, and as you said, they're simply the state that we can see, that is the politicians, government, they are simply taking orders from higher powers that we don't see. And sometimes the mask slips. I mean, their attitude is quite well summed up by, well, for several things. Firstly, the Brexit situation, but the situation with Brexit actually recurred recently. We had Rishi Sunak, old Roland Rat. He came out with his podium, and he basically attacked the people of Rochdale for voting the wrong way. And I mean, they elected George Galloway back to Parliament. I'm not a fan of George Galloway. I would never vote for him. But the fact of the matter is that the people in that constituency did. It was a 39%
he got more
swing
votes
against
than
Labour.
all the others put together, didn't he?
Yeah, 39% swing against Labour, which is a record-breaking, I think, in electoral history. And now, what really I found galling was that the guy attacking the people of Rochdale as enemies of democracy has never been elected. He wasn't even elected by his own party. He was chosen by the parliamentary party.
He
and was never,
lost to Liz Truss, for God's sake.
The only reason he got in there was because they changed the rules.
Yeah, if you lose to Liz Truss, then that's not good, is it? I mean,
I know you're really good. You're really bumping along the bottom there, aren't you?
Yeah. But that's again, this is what it's all about, isn't it? It's all theatre. It's all a game. It's all there to distract you. We're giving it attention now. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but we're talking about it, and that's what it's designed to do. It's a bit of theatre. It's just keep looking at this, keep looking at this pantomime, and think that it's real. But they all drink together in the bar. Labour, Conservative, SNP, they all go on the piss together after a day's hard work in the Houses of Commons.
They work like slaves, I bet.
It's a game.
They have what they do, the 23 hours a week or something. They're lowering their working week and raising their wages. They can vote. They can vote for their own pay rises.
And they did. And they've given themselves numerous pay rises since 2010, since the country has been in so-called austerity, and we've had to tighten our belts and all this. And they've had 3 or 4 pay rises at least in that time, but significant ones as well.
One nurses got 1.6% one year when the inflation was like 7%, and they voted themselves like 18%. It's.
I'm no fan of the NHS, mate, but I know quite a lot of nurses, and I believe that most of them are there because they want to do good. And the thing is, it's like anything, isn't it? You go into an institution like the NHS and you either believe what the NHS want you to believe, or you're going to be looking for a job elsewhere pretty soon. Ben, you've got experience of that.
I was in it for 23 years, and I did end up being kicked out for that reason. I got kicked out basically because for doing her panwo. Believe it or not. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. That really is. When you think about it, it wasn't to do. I mean, I don't know if you'd have dropped someone off a stretcher or something. You could understand it, but you didn't. You were very thorough in what you did. But it's just that was a thought crime. This is what's very worrying. You were fired because of a thought crime, because you thought the wrong way.
I said things I shouldn't say. Well, they said I shouldn't say. Thankfully enough, they did tolerate extraordinarily low standards of service from the staff. I mean, there were guys. They didn't. Well, I think deliberately kicking someone off a stretcher. I don't think I saw anything quite that bad, but I did see people basically turning up late every day, skiving off work, going home early, and things like that, and then doing as little as they could, doing it really, really badly, not putting on fresh oxygen tanks and things like that on resuscitation trolleys, things that were high risk. And I wasn't like that. I was a dedicated professional.
Well, and you're taking the shilling, aren't you, mate? It doesn't matter. I've done loads of jobs, Ben. I have done no end of stuff. But I've always done it well for the simple reason that I've entered into an agreement that they're going to pay me an amount which has been pre-agreed, and I'm happy to work for that. So I'm probably like you, mate. I believe no matter what you're doing, you give it your best. If you're being paid for it, then it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's emptying bins or or heart surgery, whatever it is that you decide you want to do. I think you're obliged to do a good job.
I think so. Yeah, I think so too. And I did. You see, I did, but and I did a much better job than most of them, quite frankly. I think.
I'm sure you
But
did. Mate. I'm
they
sure
got
you
rid of
did.
me and not them. You see, it goes
Yeah,
back to the falseness and the corruption of the state, that they would actually get rid of a good worker who had the wrong ideas and keep a bad worker who just would keep his mouth shut. And I've said there's many,
everything's
many other
inverted, Ben,
examples.
isn't it?
Yeah, I could.
Everything's inverted, mate.
Yeah,
This world, it rewards people who will tread on others to get to where they want. It will reward that. People with a good heart, like yourself, do a good job, but maybe don't think the way that they want you to think. You know, you're not going to get anywhere. Not in their system, but there's still plenty for you, mate, because being a good person, that is the ultimate. Trust me, that's the thing that will give you more joy than anything else. And doing a good job and being the person you are, mate. So don't ever let them change that. But you won't get anywhere with that attitude, mate, because that's not what they want.
I won't get. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, you don't get to become conventionally successful unless you toe the line. And I mean, it's interesting that I was having a really this is sort of like going off into a weird subject, but I was having a discussion with someone the other day, and they was talking about hell, about going to hell, and the fear of going to hell. And I said, well, is it possible the world we're in is a kind of hell? I mean, if you look at it, look at how, for example, and you've just said it yourself, Chris. If you're, a good guy and a bad guy, right? Who has the easiest, most productive life of the good guy and the bad guy? And the answer, of course, is the bad guy.
Always.
Or at least the very best, at the very best, you could say you have to be a moral coward in order to be successful. If not outright positively bad.
Yeah, I'd definitely say moral coward at least. I think you're right. I think.
Yeah, probably usually worse.
A brown noser as well. That's very important. A brown nose to know exactly where to call.
Yeah, they will fit into this world much better than we can.
Sorry, Ben Lancrest, I mean to go. But you can be accused. This is something that's annoyed me in the past. Is you can be accused of being a brown nose just for wanting to do your job well. That annoys me.
Yeah, in fact,
that's not brown nosing. That's just look. If you don't want to work here, this always gets me. Why people don't leave jobs that they hate. Every time I got bored with something, I've just gone on and done something else within weeks, because life's too short for me to be stuck doing a job for years that you hate. I don't understand. And also,
talking about jobs, what's happened? I actually saw. I've been looking at these old political films from the 30s. And what's happened to politicians that grasp the lapel and look skyward? Every one of them said, well, we're going to do this, and yes, we're going to. And you could have played it. If you sort of got all the crackles out, they were sounding exactly the same in the 1930s as they're saying now. The country is in a terrible economic state, but, don't worry, the goodies are going to come next week, or they're in the future. And as my uncle said, the goodies are always tomorrow, never today, and they never come.
Yeah.
But should we have a quick look in chat?
I think you probably should, mate. Yeah.
Louise said that the line is the line in Saudi Arabia is a prison, and I think it is. And I think it's meant to be a model.
Yes,
it's meant to be a model for the entire world. I think
it is. But I mean,
think you're right, Ben. That's what it is.
Now let's guess who gets the Groundy points this week. It's Mark Anthony. Here he is.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
He got on 10 minutes before the show started. Not bad, is it?
Well,
not bad. Or 9 minutes to be precise. Good evening, Chris. Looking forward to the show. Here we go. And we've got Ben's replied. Here we go. There's Louise.
Hello, Louise.
Hello, Louise. We got South Coast Richard. Great panel.
Hey, how you doing?
Hello.
I know this gentleman. I know, and I know Hatchy and Aunt Sally. I reckon there's some lunch.
Hello,
yes, Aunt Sally.
Hi, Aunt Sally. Hello again.
And this is interesting. First years they. Hang on. I misspelt. Was it? The first years they locked people up for seeing aliens. That's it. Now they want you to fear it, then it's everywhere. PSYOP after PSYOP this year to get you back into the Matrix. Yes?
Could be, Louise. Could be.
I think Ben will probably have a lot to say about that. hello everyone. Hope everybody's well. Yeah, nobody's Tom and
Nice.
Dick here, I
Nice.
don't think. And we got here. I think you're getting your worms in a mucking fuddle tonight, Louise.
We got
aren't
it,
you?
Louise.
That's it. So don't worry about getting things like that. I said mucking fuddle, by the way. Right, here we go. And we've got Stig. Good morning, all the way from New Zealand.
Stig.
Morning, Stig.
Oh, it's supposed to be early morning where you are, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you something.
Your dedication.
And he's probably envious of our fantastic weather. I mean, today it's been a beautiful blue sky. If it wasn't for the dark overcast and piddling down with rain, but apart from the overcast clouds and the rain, it would have been a blue sky if you're about 40,000 feet up in the sky. But apart from that, and a bit cold as well. And we've got QI. Yeah, greetings from Donegal. Hello from Ireland.
Over the water.
Top of the morning to you. No, top of the evening to you, if that's right. Yes. Here we
Have
are.
the Guinness. Get your Guinness out.
That's right. Guinness is quite nice occasionally. If we only paid the service we use, this is Rather Council, this is Louise Wilcox, we used, I would only pay for bins. Same here. Police and something library are useless. Oh, sorry, police are useless. Library doesn't hold books I want. Never used fire. Education isn't fit for purpose. Spot on there.
Yeah.
And by the way, the council apparently is not responsible for potholes. It's the county council with that. So
another layer of government. You see, it's always just we're always just one layer of government away, just one more reform away from paradise, aren't we? They always say that, don't we? They always pretend that.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Herodotus get fucked.
That's a good name.
Only God cleans up around here when the wind blows. And did you hear about there was God in heaven? Sorry, it's a religious joke now. And he's walking along, and there's a fence that divides heaven from hell, you see. And this fence is falling over you. So he goes, "Oi!" to the devil, and the devil looks up and he says, when are you gonna put this fence right? He says, sod off. He said, hang on a minute. He said, the posts are on your side. That means it's your fence, doesn't it? So the devil says, yeah, so what? So God says, I'll actually get my solicitor onto you. The devil looks up and says, where are you going to get a solicitor from?
Not on your side, mate. I should qualify something I said earlier, which I might have alarmed a few people by something I said earlier, because I said that I thought that I was comparing the world we live in and making it think to the idea of hell, and that we were in hell. However, I don't believe in the Judeo-Christian Abrahamic vision of hell, which is a place that God sends you permanently if you don't go to church or worship the wrong religion. I don't believe that personally. I think that hell is what is more closer to the new age idea of the lower astral. It's an unpleasant place, but you can escape it. You can escape. You're not there permanently. You can get out.
Like a time out, Ben.
Yeah, you don't have to be there permanently. There are escape hatches which you can get to if you just live the best life you can. Go along with what was it? Albert Camus said, "Be a rock in a tempest." A stoic. You know what I mean?
But you can have mini hell.
Beliefs and principles in the face of everything that's pushed against you, to try and push you out of the way.
But you can have many hells on Earth. I mean, I can think of one, being trapped in a lift with Tony Blair. That would be a pretty terrible hell.
I don't know. That could be quite good fun if it was just you and Tony Blair.
Well, if I was trapped in a balloon gondola with him and we were going down, I'd throw him out to lighten the load. I'd do that before I even let out the sandbags.
You do that before you were sinking, mate.
Hope YouTube doesn't take us seriously. And no, I haven't done anything.
Disclaimer: that's a joke.
Disclaim, yes, joke there. I haven't cremated my neighbour's cat or Tony Blair, so there we go. And I wouldn't.
Yes, and we wouldn't put an MP underneath Eric's trees.
That's right. Why do you think all the
Chris?
Yeah.
Chris, can you bring back Louise's previous comment that you showed up about compost?
Where are we? Garden waste. Is this the one?
Yeah, that's it. because I wanted to say something on that, Louise. Yeah,
Okay.
you're right to a point. They get off me what I don't want to compost. Like, I wouldn't compost stuff like ivy or bindweed or nettles or anything like that, because that stuff will regenerate in your compost. And the stuff that they sell at the tip, it's awful stuff. I know people that have bought it and used it. Way, there we go.
Hey!
And, hello again. And yeah, it's not good quality compost. But yeah, I get what you're saying, and I do. I compost what I can, but there's just stuff that I don't want to compost, and that's what the brown bin's for, my lovely. So yeah, you're right. But like I say, there is a caveat to that in my experience. So yeah. Anyway, I'm done.
I'm actually a woodlouse farmer, because in my compost bin it's full of bleeding slugs and woodlice, and
Woodlice
it takes a
are
long
good to
time
be
to
in.
compost. Yeah, I like woodlice. They're all right. You
They're
know?
lovely little things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
they are. They're pretty groovy, woodlice.
And if Fred the plant doesn't grow sufficiently, he might. I won't mention anything about compost, but just a little hint, to Fred the plant.
Well, perhaps you should give him something nice, like some fertilizer or some food or something, and stop being a tight ass.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Yes, but I noticed, because I've got the lady coming on who's going to talk about thinking yourself fit. What was her name now? I forgot the name. Lester. That's her surname. Anyway, she's coming up, and I noticed she's got a spider plant. So Fred might get a bit, springtime.
Well, he's a bit horny at the moment. So
it might be a bit. You might be coming around in your neck and all that, So that'll be a show to see. Dawn Lester, that's her name. Dawn will be coming on in a couple of weeks' time. That'd be cool then. And we got here when it's realised that everything the government gives belongs to the people anyway. When it's understood that the people owe the government nothing, well, they actually owe us. Yes, and as she said earlier, the line is a prison. That's
what it's meant to be.
It's a model for the rest of the world. Like, well, I mean, I know exactly what she's saying, because, and when I look at the design of the line, I can believe it, because I live in another experimental prison, which is Oxford, the original 15-minute city. What they're doing here in my hometown is designed. It's a pilot scheme for the entire country eventually, and eventually the entire world. And they're just trying to see if see if it works. And of course, we're doing our best to stop it from working.
Good for you.
Good.
I mean, what gets me, I am sick of these electric noddy cars. I was almost run over by one in home-based car park the other week.
Mate, I nearly got run over by one today, sweeping up the driveway at a customers, like commercial customers that I go to, and you don't hear them. Like, I didn't even hear this dude until he was literally nearly on top of me, and I jumped out the way with my brush. But they're lethal, mate. They are absolutely lethal.
I agree. When I'm on my bike now,
one day,
I don't know how people can cycle with with headphones on, because you lose your ears. You use every sense you can, and I know without seeing it instinctively whether there's a bus coming up behind me, a lorry, what it is. I even know if it's by the sound of the engine, whether it's a transit or anything like that. And I was cycling along last year, nice sunny day. I had this. Now you have this sense that something's there, but you can't. And I look round, and there's a bloody bonnet of a Tesla there.
Yeah.
I don't actually. I mean, even though I'm a pedestrian, there's some areas where I won't wear earphones when I'm walking, because the cars are so fast, they go around corners too quickly. And you know what? As far as the electric noddy cars and the scooters and things like that, they are. I mean, they're horrible things. They're horrible little additions to the traffic. Also, I mean, they themselves are dangerous for the drivers, because if they catch fire, the batteries are highly flammable. And if you may have seen enormous infernos created just by one scooter.
And they can lock you in, Ben, as well.
Yeah, that's right, because it's all electric, isn't it? Once the electric system fails, you can't even get out. And it's
shocking,
like, yeah, I mean, like, it began with when cars were falling into the car. It's unlikely it happens, but sometimes a car will fall into deep water, and the person inside will drown because the car will flood, but they can't open the doors and they can't open the windows, because they don't have the just simple mechanical handles anymore. And but the batteries, I mean, you don't even have to fall into deep water now. The batteries ignite, that car will be incinerated. I mean, there's there's a picture of there was a plane crash in 2010, a cargo aircraft crash somewhere near Dubai, I think, and it was carrying a cargo of lithium-ion batteries. There was 3 crew members aboard. Luckily, no passengers. 3 crew members aboard. They were all killed. Look at the picture of the plane. There's almost nothing left of the airframe. It was absolutely vaporized by these deadly inflammable batteries. And yes, and there's a number of people who've been burnt by them. I mean, like if a scooter goes up,
yeah, not a good idea.
But they're good. They apparently are good for the environment. So that's why we're allowed to have them. Yeah.
How much effort goes into getting all the lithium out of the ground to make them batteries? I mean, how much carbon do we, if that's, how much, and that's a dirty process. And it also involves a lot of kids, a lot of child labourers used to get lithium out.
They have 7-year-old children in the Congo who are digging these things out of the ground.
There's all kinds of wrong, mate, with EVs. And again, the thing to do is just not buy one. And I know that a lot of people, even in China, people that have had them don't want them again because of all the hassle with charging them and finding, like you can only, some of them, to get to, at the moment in the UK, if you want to go to somewhere like Scotland, you might have to go to different places to charge on the way up.
And 40 minutes.
Sorry?
40 minutes to an hour to charge it.
Yeah.
Fast charge.
Yeah.
But I think the best electric vehicles were milk floats. They had lead-acid batteries, and they went along about 15 miles an hour to 15, 20 miles an hour, if my memory serves me right. And they went quite a distance, because where I live, it was about 10, 15 miles from the dairy place.
Yeah.
So that's 30-mile round trip plus all the stop and perfect stop. Yeah. And
well, so if you think, sorry, I don't mean. So you carry on, Chris, because I just had a thought. You were talking about milk floats, but
carry on.
I just had a thought. No, it was that again, as with other subjects we talked about tonight. If you have an electric vehicle, you have to stop and charge it every so often. That power point is charged from the national grid, which means whoever controls the national grid controls your ability to travel. And if at any point they decide to withdraw that fuel, it won't be like a petrol car, like what petrol stations tend to have, like a number of maybe 2 or 3 days in supply in advance, don't they? They have a tank full of 2 or 3 days worth of petrol in advance, which is delivered by lorries. If the lorries stop coming, they still have about 2 or 3 days of worth of petrol in there. But if the national grid goes off, you can't charge immediately. You are stopped from charging straight away.
And they can switch your car off as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that isn't the only thing. I mean, they can switch that puppy off without even being anywhere near it. So they don't even need to switch the electric supply off. They can just switch your car off if they want to. It's technology is, in my opinion, it's not good. It's taken us further and further away from where we, the more you rely on technology, the less capable you are to function without it. And everything's online now, isn't it? So if the internet goes down, most things are going to be screwed. Shops won't be able to operate.
They don't want to diesel.
Sorry,
now they've got diesel engines, very, very clean. I mean, when's the last time you saw loads of smoke bellowing out of a diesel engine? A long time ago. I know taxis used to be notorious for it. Loads of diesel coming out. Now they're so clean you can almost breathe over the exhaust pipe. And
wouldn't recommend it.
Wouldn't recommend it. No,
don't try it. Another disclaimer.
And we owe our civilization to diesel, because it was diesel engines that run the ships, that run big tankers, and all kinds of things. Now.
So it's all diesel's fault, is it, Chris?
Well, you think about it, the diesel engine was originally built to run on peanut oil. You can run a diesel engine on almost anything.
But if you do, you get arrested. I know, because people have tried it.
That's right.
People try to use cooking oil as well. He doesn't even have to clean cooking oil. You just pick some up from the chip shop, and they'll just filter out the bits and then just put it in your tank. But you know what? They've actually been arresting people. And they've even got a special police unit that goes around checking it. And believe
Yeah.
it or not, it is called the Frying Squad. And
But
that's what they nickname it. But why? Oh, why? Because you know what they say, they arrest people. What they charge you with is evasion of fuel tax.
Evasion of fuel duty, yeah. It's shocking.
They arrest you for not paying tax on a product that you have not bought. How insane can that be?
Well, about as insane as most things that government like sort of prohibits and you know, government is insane. It really is. It's insane. If you sit down and think about it, it can only be insane. None of it makes any sense.
Most of the MPs, I mean, most of them, quite honestly, ones I've come up against, and very rare, I've actually come against an MP. They're on another planet, sort of.
Yeah. Chris, have you, while we're on MPs, have you seen in the last week, Bridgen has put something up? I've got to be careful how I phrase this, because we're obviously on a platform where we don't want to be too. Basically,
he's put something up, has he? She's not going to get blue, is it?
No. He has put a video out saying that a senior Tory, like current Tory MP, but somebody very senior, somebody who apparently got him into politics, came up to him in the bar or something in the House of Commons. So I'm paraphrasing here, so I might not have got this spot on right, but it's online.
Allegedly.
Well, no, he's the one that, well, assuming it is him, it looks like him. But anyway, and apparently this MP whispered into his ear, you can speak out as much as you want, Andrew. You took that. You're going to get.
Interesting.
It's yeah. I'm not very good with technical things. Otherwise, I'd suggest.
Are you talking about
a link? Yeah. And
yes.
And the thing that he said that he's going to get begins with C and ends in R. So I don't know, but interesting. I thought
it is interesting because
I'm
to
suspicious of him, mate. He's an MP. He swore his oath to the Queen, the King, whatever. I don't trust anyone that would do that. So I'm suspicious of all of them.
Well, they're all treason.
It's interesting
because 1972, I think it was, or 73, when we went into common market, they had to commit treason to go in. So every government since 1972 is treasonous. So officially, they should, anybody that served in government since that time should be actually having their day in court. And Tony Blair,
certainly there's people who should be hanged, for that as a result. We're not going to name names for legal reasons, but
that's right.
The people who knowingly took us into betrayed. Sorry, carry on, Eric.
Well, in 1997, he kindly changed the law from death by hanging to life imprisonment, but it's null and void because you can't change it. The 1848 Treason and Sedition Act can't be changed. So
I don't agree with it, mate. I don't agree with hanging anyone. I'm sorry.
I don't.
It makes you become the thing that you're supposed to be fighting against. It's not, to my mind, it's not the answer.
I believe that someone that does evil against people, if they're found to be psychopathic, which they can do tests now to find whether they've got blanks in the frontal lobe, we should treat them like we treat crocodiles. Crocodiles have got a right to live on this earth.
I'll be back in a minute, guys. I've got to take a little break.
Okay.
No problem, Ben.
Okay. They've got a right to live on earth like we have. And I believe they should have an island which has got all the facilities on there and just put them on that island. It's not a punishment as such. It's just saying you can live your lives but away from us. They can have their families visiting them and whatever. The families can live with them if they want to, because, and to me, I agree with you. I'm passionately against the death sentence. And in many ways, a lot of punishments I'm against, because I think that people, there have been people like a chap called, I think it was Jimmy Boyle, wasn't it? And he was in Glasgow and he was in a gang. And I think he killed somebody. And when he was in prison, his psychiatrist married him eventually. And when he came out, he became a good man because he tried to stop the youths going the way that he did. And very interesting man. I don't know if he's still alive. I don't know. But it was a very interesting man. And he he actually, you know, repented. He wasn't, I don't think, a psychopath. He was just in that gangland sort of atmosphere.
Anyone can make a bad decision and do something. Maybe, you know, even some people that do heinous things aren't bad people but you know, life.
Norway has a very interesting they have a very interesting legal system. I don't know too much about it, but they put murderers and people like that on like an island, and the guards are sort of like, it's like a village. The guards go in and have a chat with them and have a cup of coffee, and they've all got their own houses they live in. They do their own farming and things like that. It's a different attitude, because the big problem is people say, "Oh, I ain't the sod," and all this. That is retribution. That is getting your anger out.
The only people that should be taken away from society, in my opinion, are people that have committed actual harm to others. People that are in prison for stuff like tax evasion and not paying their council tax and things like that. That's a nonsense. Like, why would you put somebody through that experience that didn't need to be put there? Yeah, punishment. It's not.
I'll give them a bloody medal. I would for evading their tax.
Yeah, I think isn't it better off trying to help people, trying to teach them where they can do better, and I know you can't do that with everyone. I do get that, but you know, as a general rule, just that it seems to me again to be really lazy that the only thing you can think to do with people is to put them in a
I 100% agree with you.
It's
passionate. I did waver a little bit on the death sentence during the last 4 years, but no, I think it is wrong. And I think that, you know, there are people that are mentally sick, they're mentally ill, that do these terrible things. And to put people in rooms and lock them up, no, probably think, oh, he's a bit of a wet liberal here. Well, perhaps I am. I don't know. But
no, I don't think so. And I think another thing we've got to consider is a lot of people in prisons are damaged. They're there because they've had a difficult time, a lot of them. It's not that they're bad people. They have just, for whatever reason, made some bad decisions. And again, I'd go back to what we spoke about when we were on last time with Ben, and that is how much of it is because of the world and how it is. How many of these people are there just because we've got a really twisted kind of like set of statutes or whatever for our existence, and you know, we reward the wrong things and we worship the wrong gods, and people, you know, so many people they're not even aware of why they're here or what. And that again is something that I think has always bothered me since I was a kid, is why does nobody ever talk about what this is all about? Why is it always just this kind of, no, it was all chance, and no, it can't be. There's too much to it.
You're not allowed to kill, but you're perfectly okay to kill in a war. The government actually help you to kill. But the thing is, they did an experiment in America, and it's very moving. They had these lifers with, you know, sort of hate tattooed across their knuckles, the real sort of evil looking characters, and they got them to look after disabled animals, and they had reformed. They completely changed, and the love they had for these animals, it got me choked. And to think that those people, you know, and these people, you see bloody great character who, you know, you wouldn't mess with, and there he's showing this love to a cat. I mean, I actually got choked up when I saw it. It really I found it quite moving, you know. And I think there's a way of approaching people, and putting people in rooms which is going to make them mentally sick is no, I don't.
It's not helpful, is it? Doesn't really help anyone. Doesn't help society, and it doesn't really help the people that are sitting there either, does it?
Listen, I mean, people. I make jokes about Blair and hanging things up. That's joking, but Blair, again, he should be put on away from us, on an island that's got all the facilities, infrastructure, and anything else like that, where he can live his life out. His family can see him whenever they want. That type of thing. They might want to live there. Might be a nice place in the Bahamas or something. I don't know.
He should probably have a week in the stocks first, Chris.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Now,
can I ask a question? Because first of all, I say to J13OS, he says, "Great work, Ben." I've got to say thanks, J1303S. So thank you very much. But I think he and several other people have asked about UFOs. They've asked questions about UFOs, and I thought
UFOs, and that's not an abuse, is it? Because as I said to the door-to-door salesman the other day, UFO.
yeah, UFO.
Shall we? Do you want to whiz back in chat for a while, or shall we go straight into UFOs?
Have you got some questions in there, Chris?
There's several comments and questions about UFOs in
chat. Shall I go from the bottom up? Let's have a look.
Yeah, Jay himself actually did say something. A couple of other people, I think Louise mentioned something as well about it. So have a look. Yeah, it's there.
Now, what is this? What was this? Ancient Ruby says, children and animals have no voice. They need more protection. Yes, children and animals, and I'd say used car salesman. No, I'm joking. Now, shall I find the UFO ones? Where's the UFO?
There's several comments from J1303S has said something.
Here we are. Now, where are we? I've got the one. I've got interesting. Now, is it below that one or above that one?
It's.
hang on.
Let me have a look.
Here it is. Here it is.
You've got it.
Hang on. The FLN.
How is it?
FLN run the world.
The Elohim, isn't it?
And them as well. I thought it was the Elohim. I never heard that word, Elohim. Run the world. They created us, and they will continue to enslave us.
There's one at 8:51 p.m. that Jay made, which is interesting. He says, anyone agree with Bill Cooper that UFOs are all man-made technology and not aliens from another planet? That's an interesting comment.
I'll just try to find it.
It's 8:51. He put it 8:51.
8:51. Where are we?
Several other people have made similar comments, I think. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yes. Here it is.
Bill Cooper. Yeah.
Anyone agree with Bill Cooper that UFOs are all man-made tech?
I don't know. Could be, couldn't it?
Well, I'm going to say no. I don't agree. Now, that could explain a part of the phenomenon, but in no way does it come close to explaining the entire phenomenon for several reasons. Firstly, the behavior of the objects themselves and the beings within them, and secondly, their antiquity. I mean, the phenomenon, I think, can be traced back throughout history, and indeed, judging by cave paintings, which depict the same kind of creatures and the same kind of craft that you see in magazines today.
Well, the NASCAR lines, Ben.
Yeah, I believe that people were having these encounters in prehistoric times. So it predates the secret space program, definitely. So Bill Cooper, very clever man, got a lot of really, really respect the guy, but he was wrong about that particular thing. Funnily enough, there's the US government has just released a report on UFOs, and it basically says here, there's nothing to see here. Those you think, well, someone's here, that's life, but not as we know it, has said no proof of ET whatsoever, and that's basically what the government has said. Now, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that's life, or I don't agree with the US government, but that's basically the line. It's a 63-page waffle that basically ends with, it basically says, well, there's no proof of any ETs at all.
So why, Ben, why have they gone to all the trouble in the last 3 or 4 years of releasing US military footage of fighter planes chasing objects in the sky, and they've been talking about it on the fake stream media? So why have they done all that, mate, do you think, if they've then produced a 63-page report and put nothing to see here? Why have they done that?
I'm not actually sure. And you know what? It's even worse than that, Chris, because the very same day they released that report, they released another video which showed that they said, we got a new UFO video for you. And it's like a kind of, to me, it looks like some kind of meteor, but they said and guess what? It was filmed in 1974 and they've just declassified it. I feel like we're being, it feels like gaslighting to be. Yeah, it feels like gaslighting to be honest.
Do you think they're fucking with us, mate?
I think there's not. I think at the moment the government are not operating as a single entity. I think there's some kind of conflict going on within them about how they handle this situation, and some of them are. I mean, some of them definitely are trying to mess with our heads. But see, I actually believe there are aliens, and what's more, I think the government know it. I think they have decisive physical evidence. Yet, and I think there are people.
I don't know, mate, whether they're aliens or demons or what they are. But yeah, there are entities of this, that interact with this world, and they are not human, and they are probably of higher intelligence than what we are. I think it's a little bit foolish to kind of suggest otherwise, considering everything, like you say, historically, and there's something, isn't there? Whatever it is.
Well, definitely, and they have decisive physical evidence. This is true, and they're keeping it from us for various reasons. They're keeping that fact away from us. They're suppressing that information. They don't want us to know. But I think there are some people within the government now who do want to release that information. This doesn't necessarily mean they're doing it because they have our best interests at heart. They may be doing it for strategic reasons. They may think that they can control a world in which there is UFO disclosure better than the world we have now. I think they're wrong, but that's what they think. But there's definitely a conflict. There's internal conflict. They're not united behind a purpose.
Possibly, yeah.
Are they interacting with them? Because I've been looking up. There's a site. I'm afraid I haven't got a hand on YouTube where somebody's looking through. There was a huge explosion of UFO activity in the 60s and 70s in Scandinavia, Finland and Sweden in particular. And there were some very interesting stories, like skiers that have been abducted, but the story they told couldn't have been made up, and very, very interesting. And I'll try and find it, Ben, and send you a link. But you probably know about them already.
Well, amazing! I've just seen a video about skiers in Finland encountering having a close encounter. Yeah, maybe this.
Ben, I've got to ask you about this. Sorry, Chris. While I think about it, Ben, what was that incident was it in Russia where a group of hikers were found literally torn to pieces?
Dyatlov Pass, yes.
Dyatlov Pass.
1959. This happened in 1959. A group of,
right.
I think there was 8 of them. They were young, mostly young people, like teenagers. There was one older guy who was guiding them. They went on a winter skiing trip across the Ural Mountains in a place. They went through a place which the local natives call the Mountain of Death. And while they were in this area, they were camping out night, and then they never turned up at their destination. There were no mobile phones or anything in those days, and the university sent a search party out to look for them, and they found tents and dead bodies, and some of these bodies
weren't they? Some of them as well.
Yeah, what's more, the bodies had injuries which are very. It's just going to scare a lot of people. I don't want to scare people, but they had injuries similar to the ones you find on cattle and things like that. Bits missing, things like that.
Yeah, they'd been mutated, hadn't they? And they'd had all kinds of nasty things done to them. And
they tore themselves out of the tents, didn't they?
Something had really scared them, and they had fled. And they didn't even bother to put on their outside clothes. Because at that time of year in that part of the world, it's suicidal. Yeah, they were still in their underwear, running through the snow.
Fled in their underwear, didn't they?
Yeah. Some of them died of cold. I mean, some of them, it's pretty clear that they weren't actually injured by whatever was there, but they eventually got lost and they couldn't get back. And literally, within minutes, your body temperature starts to drop so low that you become confused and psychotic, and they died of cold. Basically, they froze.
Hypothermia.
They got hypothermia and they died. Others received a kind of injury that's really quite shocking injuries, which can't be explained. And
I've seen pictures of it. But also, do you see that last film on their camera? It looked like a figure of something in the background.
Was that Dyatlov Pass? Because
that was Dyatlov Pass,
right.
Yes.
Yeah, wasn't there? There was a picture, I think, of something, and like you say, it looked really kind of quite spooky. But I mean, that's my point. Is the reason I brought that up is because you say for anyone who says there is no physical evidence, I would describe that as physical evidence, and there's plenty of other examples of physical evidence as well, like scorch marks and things like that. And Yeah, I think to just write it off and say it's all bollocks, I think is lazy, and I think you haven't really considered it because
What's more, I could add that. Sorry, Chris, but I just want to say that to this day, the government, the Russian government, is very cagey about it, and then they're not often like that. They usually just say, "Well, hang on a minute, when the Soviet Union disappeared in 1991, it's not our fault anymore." So they just allow people to say whatever they like about the Soviet era, just like Khrushchev did about Stalin, But they won't talk about this. The files are still classified. So,
which tells you
about the Foo
pretty much a
Fighters?
lot of what you need to know.
What about the Foo Fighters?
The Foo Fighters was a nickname given by RAF bomber crews.
It was the Yanks, wasn't it, mate, that started the Foo Fighters name, I think.
Well, they saw them too. I mean, maybe it was an American term. Maybe it wasn't an American term.
It was an American term, mate, I think, Foo Fighters. But the Germans saw them as well and thought that they were the RAF or the Yanks. And the Yanks and the RAF thought they might be the Germans, but they were following planes and all sorts, weren't they?
We're still getting that today, actually, with some of the information that's coming out of like the air forces today. They're still in that situation where both of them think it's a rival. During the Cold War, it was the same. The rival have discovered a new technology, and
these entities have always been interested in military installations, air force bases, and things like that. I mean, this is one line,
especially
of thought,
nuclear weapons.
Yeah, this is one line of thought that they have come to almost protect us from ourselves. There is a story out there about a nuclear weapon launch or a test or something that apparently was destroyed by a craft of some. Are you aware of this one, Ben?
Very much. I know the guy who witnessed it, a guy called Dr. Bob Jacobs.
So there you go. So that's, I mean, if you want to touch on that, mate, because
certainly, yeah. Dr. Jacobs was actually a photography engineer. He was working for NASA. And he was involved. He was assisting the NASA and the U.S. Air Force in a test of a missile, a ballistic missile. And his job was to film this missile as it went, its entire trajectory, and including when the warhead separates and everything. And what he found out was, though, that in the middle of this test, as by the time the missile reaches the top of its trajectory, it's literally in space. And suddenly this flying saucer appears, literally a classic flying saucer, flies around the object as if it's stationary, even though it's going like it's traveling about 17,000 miles per hour, shoots like a beam of light, and he does it in several different directions, shoots a beam of light at this craft, this missile, and the missile then explodes, is destroyed, and the flying saucer just goes away. And it turns out that when Bob he tried to report this, and he went to his boss, a guy called Major Mansman, and Mansman said, "Dr. Jacobs, what is that?" He says, "It looks like a UFO, sir." And he says, "Dr. Jacobs, don't you ever refer to that ever again. Do you understand me?" And he says, "Yes, sir." And that was it. That was in 1965. Now, since then, Bob has been speaking out about it. And what's more, Major Mansman is still alive. And he came out of the woodwork recently, and he's been backing up Dr. Jacobs and what he talked about. So he's saying, yes, it was true. There was a UFO there. Funnily enough, this was part of a project. I mean, Bob didn't notice at the time. In fact, neither did Mansman. But there was a plan. And NASA had this, and the Department of Defense had this ridiculous plan. It's insane when you think about it. They were going to, God knows why, but they wanted to launch a nuclear missile or a spacecraft to the moon and detonate a nuclear weapon on the moon.
I've read about that. Yeah, that's a bit stuff.
They even thought if they could get one big enough, it would make a crater, like an impact crater on the moon, and they'd name it after somebody or other. It's insane. It's nuts.
It's insane. Yeah.
That project was cancelled, and some people think it's because of incidents like this. The trials for this project were interfered with by extraterrestrials. You see, the ETs will interfere with us. They tend to leave us alone most of the time, but they will interfere at certain points. And I think the weaponization of space is something that they will get involved in. It's as if they're saying to us, look, we don't like you using these nuclear weapons, but if you insist on using them, keep them on your own planet. And they're always much, whenever you go to a nuclear site, you'll hear stories about how something came down, or not a craft came down, or beings were seen walking around. And this includes myself, because a long time ago in the 1990s, I went on a walking holiday in Scotland, and I took some photographs, and one of them has a little flying saucer in it. It's a bit fuzzy. You can't quite see what it is, but it was definitely something that wasn't there at the time. And in the frame, you can see a nuclear base in the
Do
background.
you believe in nuclear
You
weapons?
see HMS
Dad?
Neptune.
Do you believe
Sorry?
in nuclear weapons?
That they work.
Well, no. Do you
'Cause
believe that they exist?
Well, if you ask anyone in the government, do they exist or not, they'll say, I can neither confirm nor deny that.
No, but do you believe they exist? I mean, what are your thoughts? Because I honestly, I don't know. Because
I think they've been.
my problem is, mate, Hiroshima and Nagasaki annihilated by an atom bomb allegedly, and yet they were flourishing cities again within 5 or 10 years. And I didn't think that was the way nuclear bombs worked. You know, Chernobyl again, like a little bit suspicious. Yeah, you know, you see these people going into Chernobyl and reporting and walking around, and they've got no protective gear on, and they're filming, and they're approved by the Ukrainian government. Mate, I'm not saying they don't. I don't know. It's just another thing that they've told us about, and I've not witnessed one going off, so I don't know.
Lucky, yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, I don't know, Chris. I honestly don't know. I mean, it's. I've heard other people say this. There was that guy from, I forgot his name. He was a guy from New Zealand who said that nuclear bombs will work, but only in very rare circumstances when they're detonated on the right points on the globe. And there's only a handful of points where you can actually detonate them. One of them was, he said, one of them's the Trinity test site, and there's a couple of others here and there. One of them's in Japan where the Hiroshima and Nagasaki went off. But in a way, it doesn't. Nuclear weapons are primarily psychological. I mean, there's this contradictory thing called mutually assured destruction, which was the foundation of Cold War strategy. Both sides had a massive nuclear arsenal, or what they said was a nuclear arsenal, so much so that they knew that whatever happened, they'd be able to annihilate the other side should the other side shoot at them first. As a result, so a kind of like unstable equilibrium was kept throughout those years because of the fear that the other side would, if there were a war broke out, the other side would launch weapons at them, and then they'd be forced to launch one back, and that would be the end of the world. And but if those weapons didn't work, it doesn't matter. People believed they would, and that was their purpose. I mean, you could never actually use them no military strategist ever really, except some really insane amateurs, ever suggested that you could actually start a nuclear war and win it, because you can't win them. It destroys the entire world, kills everyone. Will there? Exactly. Yeah. I like it. There's that very poignant line and very chilling line at the end of war games. You know, the only way to win this war is not to play, and that sums it all up.
That's all wars, I think, mate, isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, it was a psychological warfare, and of course, it wasn't just for military purposes. The government actually kept its own citizens under the shadow of the bomb, and that's that phrase, the shadow of the bomb.
We all lived through the 80s, all three of us, didn't we?
I was a kid in the 80s, and I remember being absolutely terrified about this. Were you shown the film Threads at school?
No, we weren't shown it at school, but I'm aware of Threads, and I've seen it, mate. I've seen it. I've seen it.
It's on YouTube if you want to watch it. It's a 1983 film about an apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic movie. It came out at the exact same time as one in the United States did, called The Day After.
That's right.
And both of them are incredibly depressing, miserable stories.
Interesting, Ben, that they came out in 83. Because isn't that the year that we came closest to nuclear annihilation, allegedly? Where it was only by the grace of God and the sensible thinking of a Russian radar controller,
Anatoly Petrov.
Yeah, and basically, you're a well-informed chap. I like
Anorak
you,
City.
You're like a little mini. You like having my own little reference on site.
I might have got that wrong, actually. I think his name was Anatoly Petrov, but
Right. Well, I think you might be right, mate. To be fair,
very brave man.
Yeah, he was actually in charge of the nuclear. He was at the command center for the strategic missiles.
He was like the shift manager, wasn't he? When these and it looked like on the radar that the the Yankees had launched nuclear missiles on Russia, but they were actually, it was a faulty reading, wasn't it? Why? Ben?
Some idiot had inserted a training program into the main battle computer,
Right.
and it was. I mean, it's the sort of thing where you can almost laugh at the end of the world. I mean, the fact that the world could end through something such a silly mistake, but it could happen. But yeah, he's just something instinctive. He thought. Petrov just thought, my God, this can't be right. This can't be right.
Can't be right, didn't he? Yeah.
I mean, he knew he could have phoned up his commanders and they just said, why haven't you launched the missiles back yet?
Probably, yeah.
But he just then ordered them to stand down and he ordered an investigation. And then they found the training program was in the damn computer.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, he still got court-martialed.
Do you know what? Again,
do you believe that?
Petrov
still got court-martialed.
He got court-martialed. Yeah, of course you can. Of course you can. But Ben, here's the point. Maybe that was meant to happen. Maybe that was meant to go another way. I mean, you know, I'm kind of questioning my own questions here, but like, if nukes are real, maybe there was a bigger agenda behind that. Maybe there was something that was supposed to happen that didn't, and because of the actions of that one man. I mean, it's not like it's something that's widely known about, is it?
It's not as widely publicised as it should be. I mean, it's. And thanks, Jay. Thank you very much, Jay, for your comment. Cheers.
Have you ever seen The War Game?
It's brilliant. That is. Oh, these kids hack computer. Yeah, they hack into this defense computer.
No, not that one. The original, the one made in 1965.
Not that one.
By the BBC, and it was banned. And I think they released the ban not that long ago, and you can see it on YouTube now. But Michael Aspel does the voiceover, and it's like a documentary. And it was filmed somewhere in Kent. Oh crumbs, I can't think where it is, but it was actually filmed in Kent, and it was black and white and depressing and frightening. My godfathers, it was horrendous. And you had people. It was like a camera crew going through this Kent town just after the bomb had gone off, and you had people rolling around, throwing up over the car. They said, "Okay, he's suffering from radiation sickness." Then you had police going along, shooting people that they can't to put them out of their misery, and it was a horrendous film. And when I saw it, nobody could face their dinner afterwards. It was really, and it's been banned for years and years. They could only show it at colleges, and you can see it on YouTube. I wouldn't advise seeing it. It's awful. But the other
you've wet the whistle now, mate.
If you want to play a game, remember that one?
That was War Games, where they think they're playing a computer game, but they're actually accidentally hacking into a computer, a defense computer.
That was an 80s
you want to play a game?
That was in the early 80s. That was really good. That was quite a good film. That was a pretty good movie.
What was the first film called you were talking about? The gory one that's on YouTube. Did you say War Game?
The War Game, with Michael Aspel doing the voiceover.
The other one was War Games.
Yeah, that was the 80s
War
one,
Game.
wasn't it?
Yeah. It was. I can't think of the place in Kent where it was filmed, but they actually got people in this town of Kent. They made them up. They got makeup and all that, and it's just like a BBC sort of reporter team of the 60s going along and they're watching what's going on. It's horrendous. I mean,
I've got to
it's all right
now. I've got to look at this. But yeah, we had this in the 80s. We lived through this, didn't we? Where it was, you were, even as a kid, you were made to feel that the world was going to end at any minute. And you remember Ben Duck and Cover at school? Do you remember that?
I think that's a bit before our time. I mean, that was more sort of 1950s, was it? Did you do that?
There was a leaflet that was sent out to houses in the 80s about what to do in the event of a nuclear.
Oh yeah,
that was it.
That was at school, and I think I was at junior school, and we were taught. We had a whole lesson about it at school, and we were shown how to go under our desks if a bomb came up. And I was thinking to myself, even then, my desk ain't going to be much fucking use if a nuclear bomb goes off. But I remember it, mate. There was a lot of hype about it in the 80s.
That advised you to sit underneath your stairs and stock up with beans. So you imagine being underneath your stairs with the rest of the family, people you might not get on with, eating nothing but beans. Now that's going to be nice, isn't it?
Supposed to take
and a little bit frightened as well.
They said you had to put.
build a shelter with the doors, weren't you?
Yes, you put doors. You just put doors at an angle by the wall, and that was your shelter. There was those Protect and Survive. They were called. It was called Protect and Survive.
That's it.
And it was bloody depressing to watch. And of course, one of the first things they said was, "They said, don't leave your home, stay in your home." And they said the real reason was because they wanted as many people dead in the first explosion as possible, so that they wouldn't have too many survivors, because they wouldn't. That's what they wanted. They want as many people dead as possible, so they wouldn't have to. They'd have fewer people to feed.
Did you see? But you can go to a secret H-bomb shelter in Essex now, and that's probably the worst secret ever, because a big sign up: secret H-bomb shelter.
Is it Kelton Hatch? Yeah, I've been meaning to play a visit. On Kelton Hatch.
There was a lot of them for sale in the 90s. In the late 90s, mid to late 90s, a lot of bunkers started going up for sale. There was a few round here.
There's one in Oxford.
Yeah, no, but I mean just like personal ones, family size ones and that.
It's an underground. It's almost an underground. I wouldn't say city, but it's a very underground town. They had a pub down there and everything.
Is it near Oxford? All right, I wonder where that is. I know there's one in the West Country. There's one near Bristol. At a place called Box. There's one there.
Yeah.
There's a place you may have heard of Rudloe Manor. RAF. It was a World War II base. It was adapted into a Cold War nuclear base after World War II. I actually went there. I recently went there. I made a video there.
Yeah. And there's one that I still believe is secret, and that's if you're in Hertfordshire, anywhere near Chisholm, if you go up the top of Hammond Street, and there's a T-junction there, and there's what looks like reservoirs, but you can't really see, and there's a bunker there, and it's got all aerials and that. And I went up there during the Cold War, and often you'd see military vehicles outside there, so I assume it is a bunker. I don't know whether it still is a bunker or not. I don't know, but the locals know it is, and I probably have Secret Service people knocking on my door tomorrow, and that's annoying. But now apparently it was a civil defence, wasn't it? They would stay underneath there, and the most interesting thing was that they were guards. If I saw a documentary about that place in Essex, and it was it Eerie something Films did it, and the chap said that they had guards, not necessarily to stop people coming in, they wouldn't be, but it's to stop people getting out, because some of the civil servants that worked underneath there would worry about their families, and they would risk it to leave, and they would be held at gunpoint, and they were kept in the bunker to do their job. Yeah, so it's
you can just see how like the government kept control of people through that kind of these nightmares. I mean, it's like The Power of Nightmares, that Adam Curtis documentary, The Power of Nightmares.
Not seen it, Ben.
It's very good. It begins with the it describes how the rise of the politics of fear, it's called. It's like, because in the old days politicians used to offer us dreams, and those dreams failed. But they've recently discovered a new role that restores their authority. Instead of offering us dreams, they promise to protect us from nightmares. And it's a good documentary. It's a really good documentary. Like all of Curtis's documentaries, it's really great. Yeah.
Now, I personally don't. You see, oh, by the way, that bunker I said about, all the locals know about it. I think it might be
disclaimer.
You cannot now. Louise Wilcox says you cannot make a nuclear weapon in the manner they claim it is made. We hold no fear of nuclear weapons now, so it's time for a different form of fear control.
Well, of course, This is one crisis goes away, another one emerges. They just, there's something new to fear, and there's something new to keep, a new method of keeping us under control. They change them every so often, but the objective is the same.
Now, this is ancient Ruby. It says Chernobyl is thriving, and they lie to keep people out. There is no radiation.
I could believe that, Ruby. Like I say, I've seen a lot of people going in there with cameras with no protective gear, and again, fear control. Yeah.
And by the way, Robert will be on as soon as he's free from work. He's busy working.
Marvelous. Hello, Robert.
Hi, Robert.
Work is the curse of the drinking class, isn't it? That's what. What was his name? Said
Oscar Wilde.
Oscar Wilde. That's it. Yes. Now, it says now. Louise says that sums up the current game we are playing. The only way to win the war is not to play their game.
I'm with you, Louise.
I'm totally with you there.
You've got to do more of getting yourself out of it instead of trying to wasting your energy fighting them, because you won't win. They've set it up so you can't. They've made it so that you can't. But you can still win, but just by not fighting them, disengaging them, not giving them attention.
Sure.
Take responsibility for things for yourself.
When the wind blows, that's what that was that thing. I like that. Leviticus Shunnet.
That was the Raymond Briggs one.
Yeah,
brilliant. That was fantastic. That was the almost like the sequel to it. He wrote a book called Gentleman Jim, which was it Gentleman Jim? It was about a toilet cleaner, a bloke who was a toilet cleaner, and the story was about him. And then later on, When the Wind Blows was almost when him and his wife retired and they lived through the nuclear Holocaust kind of thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's a really sad story. I remember reading it when I was a kid, and it was made into like a film,
an animated thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was made into an animated film, like the Snowman. And indeed Raymond Briggs does have an ability. A lot of his graphic novels do have this kind of like tragedy in them.
Yeah,
I've noticed.
They're great books. I mean, I loved Fungus the Bogeyman as well when I was a kid, and I mean, they really were. They were well, well written, well illustrated, and I love a bit of Raymond Briggs.
Yeah, definitely too.
I think Dr. Strangelove is a film which you can see. I think you can see it on YouTube. You can get lots of it on YouTube, but it's a comedy, and what I like is there's a punch up in the war room. And said, what is it? No fighting in this room. Don't you realise this is a war room? And there's all these different one-liners, and it was very cleverly done.
Yes.
It's one of my favourites actually. It's dated now, but
not seen it, Chris.
Oh,
it's definitely Kubrick's funniest film. I mean, he could do comedy quite well. This is definitely his greatest comedy, definitely.
And I'm pretty sure, even though it's years before his time, that Peter Sellers, it was so much like Dr. Who was that bloke who's just recently snuffed it? Dr. Strangelove is Dr. Kissinger. He looks just like Kissinger. Is it
Mark Devlin said this.
It's just almost identical. So, yes, my fear. Oh, sorry, forgot myself.
He keeps doing these Roman salutes, and because he's got this artificial arm. He's got no control over.
And also, he's not really disabled. He gets up from his wheelchair. That's a miracle I can walk.
It's good, isn't it?
Oh, Peter Sellers actually, they wanted him to act the part of Slim Pickens at the end. The bloke who sits on the bomb and with a.
Oh yeah, it's really funny.
Peter Sellers was right, and the producer was wrong, and Peter Sellers said no, it's too many parts. That wouldn't be right for that part. You did everything to not act in that part, and Peter Sellers turned out to be correct. He would have been too many parts. But there's another film that Peter Sellers was in, which was a Cold War one, and it's dated. It's made in the 50s, and you can see it on YouTube. And that is The Mouse That Roared. It is bloody funny. About the smallest state in Europe.
That was England comedy, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right. Well, they're an English-speaking state, and they're bankrupt, so they decided to declare war on America. So they get all the war reparations. They got an army of 12 blokes who've got bows and arrows. But it's dated.
Was that a book originally?
I don't know.
I don't know if it was. I don't know. Yeah, it's
got a feeling I might have read it as a book.
It's a classic.
It's very funny. Yeah, it's very funny.
It really is funny.
The film is really good. Yeah.
Oh, another one is we're going to decide the king and the queen are addressing the citizens. We decided to declare war on the United States. They said, "Oh, best of luck to you, mate. That's it. Sod off." They'll walk away. But, this is one of your fans here, J1303S. I love Ben's work. Yes, he's very good. Phil, he gets a lot of stick though. Yes, because remember, if you tell the truth, you do get a lot of stick. He is aware of more than people realise.
Oh, thanks, Jay. Thank you very much.
I would agree with that,
Jay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Chris.
Well, yeah,
thank you.
Because I think that when you tell the truth is timing, and if you mistime it, don't always do, then you can get a lot of stick back.
Oh God, yeah, you do.
A perfect example is what happened with Dave Starbuck. Now, Dave Starbuck, a nurse, came to see him. And this was when Jimmy Savile was at his height of popularity, and she had caught him red-handed in the mortuary. And Dave Starbuck made notes and blah, 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 blah. And when she walked out, he chucked the notes in the bin because he thought she was a nutter. And he regretted that to the day he died.
Yeah.
And he tried to contact the nurse when it came out about Jimmy Savile, and she died. And he regretted it. If he had published that, because he was a totally self-employed reporter, he was a bit like Richard D. Hall, and that he did his own work.
Do you think, though, Chris,
he would have come in for a lot of stick because Jimmy does a lot of work for charity and all that.
Yeah, the thing is, there was other people who did try and blow the whistle on Savile, but they were shut down very quickly. This is the thing. I don't think your chap Dave would have had any more success than any of the others. Savile was far more than what most people realise. He wasn't just a paedophile and a necrophiliac. He was a procurer and an organiser for the elites. And that's why he was allowed to get away with it. And that's why he had the kind of power that he did. He was probably, and I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty sure that he was briefed by MI5, MI6. He was, they would have used these people that he provided these services for. They would have been compromised and blackmailed. And I'm sure Savile was a part of that. He was dark, sinister man, but he was, like I say, he was a lot more, I think, than most people give him.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I'm not surprised because we know that he was the BBC, as you mentioned, Eric. You said that people were trying to expose him and they were getting shut down, they were getting silenced. Johnny Rotten, do you remember that outtake from the old grey whistle test from '77? He was going, I could tell you some things about Jimmy Savile.
Yeah.
He tried. I mean, a lot of people talked about it and they knew about it. It was an open secret. That's a horrible term, but that's what it was. And the reason is because the BBC, the idea that this idea, we had no idea. He was abusing kids in the dressing rooms. He worked.
Jill Dando was going to blow the whistle on it. That's why they done her.
We'll see what happened to her. That's that case. That's never been solved. The guy they jailed has been released on appeal
and never got a penny in compensation.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
this
day. Who was that? Sorry, I missed that one.
Barry
George. Was it Barry George?
Yeah.
Yeah, Barry George.
Released on appeal.
That they tried to set up for killing Jill Dando. But she was whacked, I think, in my opinion, allegedly, because she was going to blow the whistle on something big.
Yes, and indeed,
that has been.
It may well have been something to do with Savile.
People around her have said that she had information about paedophilia, and she was going to go. She wanted to. I don't know whether she wanted the BBC to do a program about it or what, but she wanted to blow the whistle. And that's why she was taken. And very interesting, and that's just all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything else, but very interesting that her partner at the time has gone on to have such a highly successful career.
He was treating the Queen, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Before she died.
He delivered Kate Middleton's children, didn't he?
Yeah. And it's like, this is crazy. It's all pointing towards the fact that this was a completely institutional situation. That Jimmy Savile was was just part of a larger institution. He worked for them. He worked for them for 46 years, doing various things. Top of the Pops, DJing, 46-year career, and he was doing it. He was doing it from day one. He was doing it from day one.
Even before he was famous, when he was in Leeds, when he was running the dance halls, because something that he's credited for is being the world's first ever DJ, isn't he? The fact that he introduced dancing to records at lunchtimes in these clubs. And even then, he was known to have a fondness for young girls.
And the NHS covered it all up as well when he was portering, at least. I mean, I, as a former hospital porter, it really strikes me deep into my heart when I think about what he did, and about, you know, it's really horrific as a former hospital porter to think about that. And
he had a room, didn't he, in one of the hospitals. He had a room where he could stay.
Yeah, and
more than one. Stoke Mandeville, he had a room.
I mean, there was staff accommodation. A lot of hospitals have staff accommodation, and some staff do live in. Not me myself, but he was allowed to have children. He was allowed to entertain children in his room, and everyone knew he was doing it. And they said nothing because it's the NHS, because it's an institution. They just went, "All right."
They gave him a house at Broadmoor. Yeah. He had a detached house in the grounds at Broadmoor when he was running that.
I mean, I share this goes on a lot. I mean, do you think, for example, you know, Wayne Couzens, like when he killed Sarah Everard a couple of years ago, he was almost 50 years old when he committed that crime, and he was like
copper.
Yes, he was an elite cop. He wasn't just your normal beat bobby. He was on the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Squad. Now, are you seriously saying now? How very often these serial killers don't normally start offending in their middle age. What happens is you look into their past, you'll find that when they're little kids, they used to hurt animals and things like that. And they do, and we know that he was exposing himself and doing all kinds of horrible things long before he killed Sarah Everard. And I cannot want. Firstly, I mean, there's so many issues associated with that. Firstly, that someone must have known in the police authorities and never said anything, that he'd probably killed people before. And also, did he operate alone, or was Sarah Everard ordered by somebody, and his job was to go and pick her up? And then when the maybe the security of the operation was compromised, and so they said it's not going to, you know, some CCTV cameras were on when they should have been off, and so they saw you grab her, you should get rid of her and dump her body. And he said, okay, of course he did that. And of course, what happens after that? He takes the rap. He's the people who ordered her will you know, they're not going to be exposed. It's like The Hostel, those horrible films, the Hostel 2. They're really shockingly violent films if you've ever seen them, but I do wonder how true they are. The guy who produced the Hostel film said that he heard that such things really go on. And had she been ordered by somebody, of course, whoever ordered her was probably someone very, very high up, maybe a name you'd recognize. Maybe because if he's in the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Squad, he's the kind of person who, if he had the right traits, in other words, he was like a psychopath who was willing to make some money on the side, they just said, would you mind doing this extra job for us? You know, we'll order certain people and order children or women or something, and we want you to go and pick them up for us. And then they're just listed as missing people. I mean, is that possible?
Thousands of people. Well, who knows? Everything's possible, Ben, isn't it?
And of course, yeah, exactly. And of course, he took the rap, being the smallest cog in the chain. The person who did the ordering is completely safe, and he's took the rap. He's just been labelled as just another thrill killer working completely by himself.
Look at what happened in Belgium. Was it in the 90s or the noughties with the Dutroux case?
Yeah. Oh, that's
you know, there was 1 million people on the streets in Belgium. But they managed to brush it all under the carpet in the end, didn't they? And, you know, for anyone who's not aware, it was there was a series of children went missing in was it Brussels, Ben?
It was somewhere. It was in Belgium.
All over Belgium, and this guy was found with 2 girls basically in cages in a basement.
Yeah.
And then that led to them finding the graves of other girls. And you know, it was almost common knowledge at the time that it didn't just end with him, that this was he was procuring these children for elites, and there were people marching in the streets and everything, and I don't know how they did it, but they managed to shut it all down, and nobody talks about it.
Look what happened to Barbara Kelly and Lady Isabel Barnett. I don't know if you heard of that.
No, you're going to have to educate.
Well, I've got to be very careful what I say because there's people still alive now. Before That's Life show, there was a program called The Braden Beat. which was just similar, and it was all consumer things. And Bernard Braden was a chap that was brought over from Canada who was very experienced in television, and his wife was called Barbara Kelly. And they came over, I think, in the late 50s, early 60s. And they started this show called The Braden Beat. And what happened is Barbara Kelly and Lady Isabel Barnett, and she was a famous sort of personality, a legal sort of person, were so shocked at the amount of paedophilia that was going on at the BBC, they decided to start a helpline up for children so that they could catch these paedophiles, so that children could speak on the telephone to people and the police could go in and nab who these paedophiles are. Well, then, yeah. And then what happened is Lady Isabel Barnett was, now remember, she was a legal sort of person, very posh. She was arrested for stealing a chocolate bar out of a sweet shop, trumped up charge. And the next thing, she's found dead in her bath. Surprise, surprise.
Right.
And then the thing after that, Bernard Braden gets fired from the BBC along with Barbara Kelly. Instant dismissal.
Right. And then a few years later, they set up Childline, which I think was not designed to help children, but to intercept anyone who was thinking on blowing the whistle on anyone that they didn't want the whistle blown on.
I can well believe it.
I'm not naming the person, and there's no suspicion on this person, okay? But one of the people that started on the new version of the Braden Beat, shall we say, was a researcher, a junior researcher for Bernard Braden. That's all I've got to say.
Yeah.
I'd say to people, do your own homework. I'm not mentioning any names because I don't want.
We've said enough.
Fair enough, mate. I'm not heard of this case.
Listen,
but can I comment on something that
Chris
said?
Can I comment on
something? Have to say what you're going to say, and then I want 5 minutes on tomatoes.
Sure, no worries, but sure, okay. We're nearly at the end now. But firstly, Michel Dutroux, the guy who had the girls in the cellar, he was testifying in court, but they wouldn't let the survivors, the girls, because there were some survivors from his reign of terror. They never testified in court because they would have said that they would. The only time they were let out of the cellar was to go to various chateaux in the area where the knobs were.
They would have said more than what they wanted them to say.
Yeah. Secondly, on the subject of Childline, now the Childline, when I was a little kid when Childline came out, and I thought it looked really good. But then I didn't realise that's Esther Ranson, who everyone saw as this wonderful guardian. She used to run That's Life, the consumer show, and everything. And
there's no suspicion on her. I just say that allegedly there's no suspicion on her.
But I mean, not as an active person, but as a passive person. I mean, she said, "Oh yes, we knew, we heard about Jimmy Savile, but we just thought we shouldn't say anything."
But you were still his mate.
Yeah. How can the woman who set up Childline just say, "Well, we didn't have any proof and we thought we better not say anything"? I mean, surely she should have reported these suspicions, or maybe she did report them and got told to shut up. I mean, I don't know, but this should be an absolute red flag. That it's not Savile is not just where it starts; it goes higher. Anyway, sorry. It's a tomato time.
No, you're all right.
We'll speak off air about this.
Tomatoes, Chris.
Tomatoes.
You asked me an embarrassing question about tomatoes.
Embarrassing. I've got a difficult decision with my. Was it agony uncle? No, shall we say gardening agony uncle Cliff the gardener? I have this very embarrassing tomato problem.
Stop snivelling, boy, and out with it.
Well, do I put my? I feel very embarrassed about it. Do I put my seeds out to germinate now, or wait a little later?
Where are you going to crack them off, my friend? Are you going to do them indoors?
In full view of my neighbours in
on the windowsill. Yeah. Excellent, mate. Why not? Look, I went to a lady's today, and she's I've only been. It's only the third time I've been. I ain't taking on new customers, but I'm a sucker for a sob story. And I was working at the vets where I look after the grounds one day, and they had this heating and air conditioning engineer there, and I ended up chatting to him because I chat to everyone. And he was like, "Oh, my mum's not been able to get a gardener for 3 years, and oh God, she gets her down." And And I was like, all right, give her my number. So anyway, I've been going and sorting her garden out, which is good fun because it's been let to go for about 3 years, and I love that, mate. I love getting stuck in. But anyway, when I was there today, she's a lovely old girl, and we were talking about veggies and that, and I looked in her. She's got a front porch with one of those poly greenhouse things in it, and she's got tomato plants already that are, where's the camera, like that, sort of 3-4 inches, some of them.
Really?
Yeah, and she's not only got them to there, she's already started hardening them off, mate. So she's got them in this little mini poly, you know, them little freestanding, like a wardrobe greenhouse thing, but with plastic. You know the ones I mean. Do you know the ones I mean, Chris?
I know the ones you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So she had chilies that were about an inch and a half. She had tomato plants and some other bits, and some courgettes and some other bits and pieces in there, and she's had them in there for a few days now. I think she'll probably give them another week or two in there, and then she'll stick them in a polytunnel outside and see how they go. So in answer to your question, absolutely not, mate. I'm late this year. I've done absolutely nothing so far apart from buy seeds. So I need to get stuck in, but it's like anything, isn't it? It's time. But I need to get started this weekend, mate, and start cracking some seeds off and get. But yeah, definitely.
I actually buy the tomatoes.
However you're going to do it, mate.
They're all right.
It's not too early, mate. It is not too early now, definitely. I mean, if you're going to put them outside before the end of May, then you obviously need to harden them off and just start introducing them a little bit at a time. So put them out in the day first of all on a relatively mild or hot day. Leave them out for a bit, bring them in, and then just keep hardening them off, and eventually they'll be able to tolerate the lower temperatures. And then even if you do get a frost, they might survive. I never say they definitely will.
Greenhouse, not green.
Yeah, if in the greenhouse, mate. You've got to keep forgetting you've got a greenhouse, mate. You could have started them. You could have started them in February, mate, if you've got a greenhouse.
Yeah, it's not a heated one though, because I'm a tight.
It doesn't need to be, does it? It'll protect from the frost, mate, just like a cold frame will or something like that. So and
my cabbages are coming on, and celery's coming on a tree.
Brilliant.
There we are. But anyway, thanks for that, and we're just coming to the end now. Thanks, Chris and Ben, for coming on. It's the fastest 2 hours tonight, isn't it?
Mate, it's always
flies by, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy doing them with you too. It's good crack. So and it always seems to go really quick. So
I was thinking when I used to be on the Kev Baker show, I used to think, how am I going to fill 2 hours? What can I talk about for 2 hours? But of course, I always do find something, and so do you. You know.
We're very comment led as well on here, which I like. So a lot of what we talk about is things that people sort of mention in the comments. I like that. So that's nice.
Well, it's an ambiguous name because it's there, them, there. It could be about anything. And I've
an interesting title.
Yeah, and also I don't write a description because that way it leaves us open. Now next week there's a mystery guest coming on. Ooh, who's this mystery guest coming on? We've also got a lady coming on the week after. And hang on, I better look at my book. We've got my book here. See, got my book appointment book here by gum. And I've got Dawn Lester coming on the 25th. She's going to be YouTube friendly, so it won't be on the Naughty Show only. And then after that, there's some bloke called Chris the Gardener. Never heard of him. And Ben Emlyn Jones. Yeah, do you know, heard of Ben Emlyn Jones? No.
Rings a bell.
What's that? Is that 3 weeks, Chris?
I think so. Monday the 1st.
Will we come back again? I can come back again. Let me email you and sort out a date I'd love to come back anytime. You know, Chris, anytime.
Oh, we are always welcome, and hopefully, Mark Devlin will be on the 8th of April, and Nathan will be on. So that's going to be interesting.
Great guy.
So
Mark's a great guy.
And Nathan's definitely coming on the 15th of April, and Mark Devlin Monday the 8th of April.
Mark, he's another Oxford man, Mark, and he's a really good guy.
Nathan on the 15th, so they're all booked in. And there's also going to be some more Naughty shows. I'm still working on the radio show. Hoping to have a radio show. But I can't get the bastard to work, so there we go.
I'd be
Well,
no
thanks.
use to you, Chris.
Wow. Well, thanks for coming on, and please stay on after the show. We got a little work. I'll let you know what I've had to hold back to make it YouTube safe tonight.
Oh, right. Okay.
And thank you, everybody in chat. Sorry, I can't read out all your comments. Please take it personally. No, no, please don't take it personally. And have anything to say, Chris, before we sign off?
Not at all. Thank you, everybody, for engaging in chat.
Now, nothing to add. I just want to say a big thank you to the two Chris's and to everyone who's listened and has posted in the chat, especially. Thank you very much, all of you.
And remember, whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh. And see you here, same time, YouTube Willie, same time, same place next week with our mystery guest. And good night.